Live stream.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for joining the call here today. And so we will continue our reading from the Bhagavad-gita. And which verse are we doing on Bhagavad-gita?
32.
32. Fantastic, for 500 points. You know where we are. So
332.
3.32. Okay, we'll give 750 for that.
I got more.
For telling us the precise location. Okay, so let's see, are we broadcasting? Yeah, we are doing that. Okay, that's very good. And let me offer my respectful obeisances for those of you who are going to watch us here on Facebook and also on Zoom. So should we get ready then, shall we start sharing the screen? And 3.32 is what we're going to read today. So let me just bring it up here. And how do I share my screen here? Like that. Okay, and I should share this whole screen here with you. Can you see this Bhagavad Gita? And is the print big enough?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And so let's see here. So we were reading in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 3. We know all about the Karma Yoga, and we will continue to see what Krishna has got to say about it after these brief prayers to the special master. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Thank you so much once again, dear devotees, for making time here on this Saturday to come and have a discussion on the words of Sri Krishna, or the song of Sri Krishna, which is Bhagavad Gita. So basically, we had read in the last couple of verses about the military type injunction that Krishna gives, and then basically, he says that if those who, and the injunction actually started from verse number 30, where he says, "O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight." So instructions given, right? Conditions specified. And then he's saying what's going to happen if you do that. So in verse 31, we read that those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully, without envy, become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. And let's see what Krishna is going to tell us in verse number 32 today. So here he's going to tell us, Ye tva etat abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvagyana vimudam stan vidhi nashtana chetasaha. Ye tva etat abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvagyana vimudam stan vidhi nashtan achetasaha. Ye tva etat abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvagyana vimudasvam tan vidhi nashtan achetasaha. And let's see what that means. Ye is those, tu, however, etat, this, abhyasuyantaha, out of envy, na, do not, anutishtanti, regularly perform, me, my, matam, injunction, sarvagyana, in all sorts of knowledge, vimhudan, perfectly befooled, tan, they are, vidhi, know it very well, nashtan, all ruined, achetasaha, without Krishna consciousness. So if somebody does something out of envy, what are you going to say in Sanskrit?
Abhyasuyantaha.
Abhyasuyantaha. Very nice. Okay. And if somebody is giving you injunctions, what are they giving you?
Matam.
Matam. Very nice. And if somebody knows something, what is that called?
Vidhi.
Vidhi.
All right, very good. And if you have to do something regularly, again and again,
Anutishtanti.
Anutishthanti, very nice. And if something is ruined,
Nashtan.
all right. And if you're without Krishna consciousness,
Achetashaha.
Achetasaha.
very nice. Okay. So now let's look at the translations by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So now in the previous verse, he had talked about do this and do that without envy. And if you do this, then this is going to happen. But now in verse number 3.32, he's saying, but those, right? So those who are not following the injunctions, what happens to them? But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. How bad is that, right? When you look at the word ruins, right? Nashta, everything is, destroyed, right? Nashta means destroyed, right? And ruin is that, you've reached that level that there is no way of coming back, right? We see the ruins when you go to Greece, right? You see the ruins of a particular civilization. So old buildings dilapidated, nothing can be done about them. So here they're saying that our endeavors for perfection, whatever you're trying to do to gain Krishna consciousness, your endeavors will be ruined. So it's a very strong thing, not to disregard Krishna's injunctions. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying the flaw, right? So we are human beings, and if you're not Krishna consciousness, that's a defect in us. The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the supreme executive head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the supreme personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and the personality of Godhead due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. Very nice purport by Srila Prabhupada. So let's look at this purport a little bit more in detail. So here it's saying that there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head. And there is punishment everywhere. Can you give me some example of punishments? No punishments exist in your life?
Like when you commit a crime, you're
When you
punished.
commit a crime, right? Yeah, there's a famous novel, Crime and Punishment. Okay. So when somebody commits a crime, like?
Killing someone,
Killing someone is a
somebody.
crime. And so what is the
Stealing,
punishment?
Mataji.
life
what-
in prison,
Life imprisonment. What else can be the punishment for killing?
Shoplifting.
Can be hanged to death.
They can be hanged to death. Exactly. Right. Okay. What else? What are some
Speeding
other
ticket.
Speeding ticket. Right. Okay.
Yeah, shoplifting, Mataji.
Shoplifting. Yes. So there's punishment for that, right? So
Yeah,
whatever. Right. So there is, if you disobey the orders, right? So somebody has got there in a superior position and they have given you some certain injunctions, certain things to do and not to do, and we disobey them. We do not follow their injunctions. So then we will be punished, right? Now, do we ever punish others? Have we ever punished
yes,
in our lives?
Yes.
Children we do normally.
Children do,
Kids.
right? Children, kids. Anybody punish their spouses?
Yes, Mataji. Just stop
Many a
talking.
times we punish ourselves,
We
Mataji.
punish ourselves, yes, right? So this concept of punishment is always there. So then Prabhupada is just extrapolating there and he's saying, well, you look around you, there is crime and there is punishment for that. And if you don't obey the orders, of the superior, then you will be punished. So what's the big deal? You know, if you don't obey Krishna, then you will be certainly punished for that, right? And
If we are
then,
not chanting,
yes,
we
that's an
will
injunction,
be-
right? Yeah, and then the punishment will come in various ways,
yes, yes.
right? And then he's saying a disobedient person, and this is such a nice verse that he's saying that a disobedient person, however great he may be, he could be great. Now, how do we judge greatness? Give me the example of some great people that we know of. Do we?
Srila Prabhupada,
Srila Prabhupada, very nice.
our Guru Maharaj Ji,
Okay.
you yourself.
No, no, that's doubtful. But great people that we know, of, that are referred to as great.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Okay. Only 3 great people?
Mm.
Give me some more examples of what we heard. Generally, people talk about, right? Great this, great that, great this, great that, right? Some examples of great.
Abdul Kalam ji. Abdul Kalam ji.
Okay, Abdul Kalam was a great what?
He was spiritually, he knows a lot of things, though
Okay,
he
so he was a
was
spiritual. Okay,
a spiritual person.
all right. Any other?
There are
In the
great people in
present-
every field of life. Like,
There are
you
great
know,
people in every field of life, right? So
Right.
great musician, great philosophers, great politicians, great actors,
yeah.
right? So we refer to people and then they become famous, right?
Great politicians are very rare, Mataji.
Okay, nonetheless, they are great, right? If they are great politicians. So now we see that you know we hear people being referred to as great, right? And great people are famous. That's why you know about them, right? So give me the name of a great actor or a great actress, as you will say, and they are famous, right? The whole world knows about them. The whole world rushes to them.
Amitabh Bachchan.
सीख लोगे और जैसे मर्जी
Lata Mangeshkar.
Yeah, she's a singer, right? Like that. So today we have a whole family with us, though distributed across the globe. We have Sulekha Mataji here, and we have Sonia Mataji, the sisters, and they're also being joined by their mom in India. So this is fantastic. Yeah. So what I was saying was that people become famous. Now, the best kind of fame, what is the best fame that a person can get? Right? Like, for example, if you're a singer, then if you are your song, whatever your song or your album is on the topmost charts, where they have different kinds of charts, right? And it stays on the chart for X number of days, like you are very famous, right? Or if you are a Hollywood, I don't know why I had this feeling that Priyanka Mataji is going to come today to the class. I don't know why, but here she is. Fantastic.
Thank you, Mataji. Dandavat pranam.
Dandavat pranams, and of course, Sumi is there, Sulekha, Poonam Mataji is there, Chitra Mataji is there, Sonia Mataji is there, and Varshana Mataji is here. Sukumal Radhe, Vindhyavali, Satapa. Fantastic. This is good. Very good.
Dandavat pranam Mataji.
And I pronounce to everybody.
Very nice. So what I was saying was that when we talk about people being famous, and there is fame, then but the real fame is something that won't be short-lived. For example, a novel is there. People like that novel. It stays on the New York bestseller list. How long does it stay? And 2 years down the line, people forget it, right? But the real fame will never die. The real fame will be remembered. For example, if I were to ask you, those who are in USA, like, can you tell me who was the 25th Prime President of America? You don't know. Even if I say, can you tell me who was the Prime Minister 5 years ago, President of America 5 years ago? We don't know, right? It's not coming like that, right? So the real fame that a person can get, and for us, the Jiva souls, is to be known as a devotee of the Lord. That is the best kind of fame that anybody can get, right? And other people who are being mentioned as famous or being great, Prabhupada here is saying that a disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self. The Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, Brahmeti Paramatmeti, Vadanti Tattva Tattvadas Satyatvam Yad Jnana Advayam, Brahmeti Paramatmeti, Bhagwan Iti Shabdate. So in the first canto, second chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, we are saying, Vadanti Tattva-tattva-vidas. They are saying that those who know the real truth, they say that there is Bhagwan, there is Brahman, spiritual effulgence, then there is Paramatma, and there is Bhagwan. So if a person is not following the injunctions of the Lord, however great the material world might, think of them to be, but that is useless, right? And why he says that personality of Godhead due to a vacant heart. And in how many ways can we think of a heart that is vacant? If I'm saying a heart is vacant, what is there which is not in the heart that we are saying it's vacant?
Spiritual knowledge.
Krishna consciousness is not there.
Krishna
Love.
consciousness is not there. Love for Krishna is not there, right? Up until the love of Krishna is there, blooming and about to overflow from the heart, there is no point. There is no point in, having a heart. It'll pump. It's just a muscle pumping away blood, and it's keeping this machinery going. But the heart that is, without love for Krishna is certainly a vacant heart. A heart which does not have love for other beings, because Krishna says, "Mame vancho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana." Everybody around me is my part and parcel. So one who doesn't have love for other entities in the world has got a vacant heart, right? Now, from another angle, let's look at a vacant heart. And so what is there in the heart?
Emotions.
All right. And what are emotions?
Feelings for others. Love for other.
Okay. Emotions can be anger also. Envy,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. But from the Shastric perspectives, when we talk about emotions, is it okay to say that emotion is also a thought?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And which is that machine that produces thoughts?
The mind.
Mind.
Right. And where does the mind reside? Where is the mind? You know it. Or you can
Mataji,
guess
it is
it.
In the
heart.
head.
It's
It
in
is
the heart. Yeah, the mind is in the heart. Okay. So, and what else is there in the heart? There's mind,
super soul.
super soul. Very good. Where is the intelligence?
Intelligence. Yeah. Intelligence.
Right? It's also there in the heart, right? So awakened heart is a heart which won't have the intelligence. Not that it won't have the intelligence, but the intelligence to understand that Krishna Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So no matter how great a person can be called in the material sense, of material world, but unless in his heart, his intelligence is telling him that Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, that Vasudeva Krishna is everything, his heart is vacant.
Mataji, so what's in the brain?
Brain is, well, according to the Shastra, the brain is an instrument to
Oh,
capture
okay.
and process. Yeah.
Okay,
Process
because I
things.
thought intelligence was in the brain and mind
I
was
also,
in
yeah,
the heart.
actually, I didn't even know the difference between mind and brain. Prabhupada told me. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Mataji,
And a very,
Ma-
go ahead. I think there's a question coming. So,
yeah, one question. So like, we didn't mention like our own, like our spiritual, like our soul. So where is the soul? Is that in the heart?
very, very good question. Where do you think the soul resides?
In the
That's also
heart.
in the heart.
Soul resides in the heart. And then what happens when there's a heart transplant?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, so, Prabhupada says in Bhagavad-gita that the soul actually, right, floats in the pranavayu, floats in the airs that we have, right? And of the air, we have pran, apan, vayan, right? Like that, we have 5 principal airs. There are many more different kinds of airs in our body. And so main is the breathing part of it, right? Breathe in and then breathe out. And so our acharyas tell us that, and there's a little bit of a physics involved over here, right? For example, if I have an item in my hand, right? And if somebody is pulling it if somebody pulls my hand in the upward direction, and at the same time somebody tries to pull my hand towards the right, or whatever you see on the screen, left, right, in this direction. So if somebody is trying to pull my hand in this direction, somebody is trying to pull my hand in this direction, where do you think the hand is going to move? Somebody tries to pull it north, somebody is trying to pull it towards the east. Where will it go?
Where are your brain says?
No, but the pressure is coming from outside, right? Somebody is pulling it on to the top. In this direction, somebody is pulling it in the direction. Where will the hand go?
Whichever is strong.
Suppose both are equal.
Lines in your room.
Sorry?
So Mataji, in the middle, it will go in the middle like northeast, then
Northeast, exactly, right. Somebody is pulling you up and somebody is pulling you in this direction. So it will go in the northeast, right? So similarly, all these airs that are moving and the soul is floating in the air. So depending, and somebody said whichever is the stronger, right? So so these are air force, right? So these are the life air force in which the soul is moving in the body. And so depending on whichever is dominant at that time, the soul kind of floats in that direction. So when a force is being applied to me in the east direction and the force is being applied to me in the north direction, if the forces are equal, then I will be exactly 45 degrees northeast. And depending on if there's a difference in the forces, I might, tend to float either towards one side or towards the other side, right? But I will be deviated from the path. It will be somewhere in the middle, right? 10 degrees northeast, 45 degrees northeast, 60 degrees northeast, depending on that, right? Now imagine not just two forces are there. So the direction in which you actually go is known as the resultant of the forces, the result, right? You applied this, applied that. What was the result? Well, I went northeast. So now I think there are 5 forces that are being applied on the soul, and the soul has to now move in some direction ultimately, right? So this way, in a body, depending on which forces are being active at that point, how they're active, which one is more forceful and things like that, the soul keeps on floating in different parts of the body. So it's not necessarily that when the heart transplant is happening, that the soul is actually in the heart and they removed the heart and then other person's heart came and that other soul came in the body. It could be just that your soul at that time was floating in some other part of the body. And then, you get the heart and then the pranavayu flows and then, the soul will do that. So it's not necessarily that it lies in the heart reason, but majorly it stays there like that.
So, Mataji, thank you. I just want to ask, what happens then with the Paramatma if you die or if you have a heart transplant?
Yeah, that's a very good point. The Paramatma goes with you to the other body. Wow. Because the Paramatma has the job, right? Has the job to guide you in whatever body that you are, provided you're willing to take the guidance from him, right? Now, the question to ask over here is, what happens when I get liberated? Right? Then I'm not going to get a material body. So I don't need a Paramatma to guide me in my material body, right? So at that time, the Paramatma action finishes, right? He just goes back. Paramatma is Shirodakshaya Vishnu, right? He had expanded to be with you in your body. He will contract and go back into himself like that.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Krishna consciousness is amazing. Yeah. Right. So now he's saying that, due to awakened heart, so you don't have the intelligence, and to distinguish that there is Krishna, and you don't have love in your heart, and that heart is awakened heart. And he's saying that there is no hope of perfection in life for him. And that's why he's saying your life is ruined if you're doing that and we are pursuing that particular style. And what is the reason? What was the main cause of a person behaving like this? Here, I'm bringing up the verse for you. The translation. What is the main cause people behave like that?
Envy.
Out of envy, Mataji.
Envy, exactly, right? So out of envy. So now we have to address the envy. Let's talk of envy for the rest of the evening. Right? So envy, like I said last time, is a very strong emotion, and it is the inability to tolerate the eminence of others. Right? So there's jealousy, there is envy, and usually people use the term synonymously, but there's a difference between them. Envy is worse than jealousy, right? So jealousy usually involves more than two people, right? For example, there's a girl, very plain looking, and she has a boyfriend or a fiance, and they both go out to a restaurant and they're having dinner. And then suddenly a very beautiful lady comes, and the fiance looks at her, and they turn out to be, oh, she's my old college friend. And the two of them start talking, right? So the girlfriend, this lady, right, she feels jealous. She's just jealous because she's feeling threatened that in her relationship with her boyfriend, there's a chance that it can be broken because there is a threat. Somebody has got something better than what you have, right? It's not that she really wanted to be beautiful, but she wants the boyfriend and she's seeing this one as a threat, right? Boyfriend, the fiancé. So that jealousy usually involves more than two people. Envy is like, we wanted something. We want something. And others also, other definition and other way of distinguishing between jealousy and envy is, well, one is that, I wanted something and somebody else has it and I think they don't deserve it. I am the one who deserves it. I am the one who should have it. And to the extremes, what envy can do. Somebody gave this nice example. I think it was Shivas Pandit who gave a nice example. And he said that jealousy is somebody purchases a Tesla car, right? You can be jealous. And he said envy is you want to destroy the Tesla car. You're feeling so bad. You want to go spray paint it or do something, scratch it with your key like that. So that is envy. So envy, envy is very strong. And we hear the story about Chitraketu, right? In Bhagavatam, who had 1 million wives. And none of the wives could produce a child. You can imagine a king, how bad he can feel, right? A king is supposed to have an heir to the throne. And he doesn't have that. And then one day, Angira Rishi comes and says, comes to the court, and the king just begs him and he says that, give me a child. And Angira Rishi says that, I can give you that boon, but the child will bring you both happiness and distress. So he says, doesn't matter, give me that. And so he says, okay, here is a mango or some fruit and give it to your principal wife. And so the king goes and gives it to the first wife, and she gets pregnant and she has a son. And now because this wife gave the son, the king now spends most of the time with this one, right? Because the son is there. And so the other wives, they get very, very envious because they are thinking that we are also there. How come, we also deserve the son. How come she does it? She's the older, we are young, we are more beautiful, like that. And then they all scheme to the extent that they kill and poison the child. So this is the extent to which envy can go, right? And we had talked about envy in a last time about subtle envy of Krishna. We had talked about that, right? And we had said something like, when the alarm bell rings in the dead of the night or dead of the morning or in early morning at 4 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. and it's time for us to go and do Mangalarti or get ready for Mangalarti, and we just pull the blanket a little bit more on our head, right? And I had said that that's a subtle envy of Krishna, because we are still not surrendered to the thought that Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, right? We have not settled to that fact. And so envy, we might think that we are non-envious. I never say anything. I'm not Kansa. Don't say, where's Vishnu? I'm going to kill him. I don't see things like that. I'm a devotee. I'm chanting, right? But envy can exist in us in very, very subtle ways also, right? And going back to the phrase again, that Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And we had also talked last time about the 6 opulences, right? And they are available to the extreme, right? To the extreme, they are all present in Krishna, which means Krishna is the most beautiful, right? Krishna is the most famous. Krishna is the most wealthy, right? So we need to understand that fact. And not only understand that fact, understanding is one thing, right? Understanding is one thing. Then Practicing it
Accepting.
is also another thing, right? Practicing it. Yeah, exactly. So you understand that Vasudeva Sarvamiti, and then you practice it, that he is the most, he is the biggest, right? So when you're working in our office, somebody senior in the office comes up, you stop working, right? You look at that person, wish him, welcome him, like that. Similarly, in your home, right? We are staying in your home, and then some, elder relative comes. Then we offer a respect. We stop whatever we're doing. In the temple, right? People are doing everything, and then, the temple president walks in, everybody starts to bow down, or some other exalted devotee comes, everybody starts to bow down. So that is acknowledging it, right? So this envy is something that we have to be very, very careful about. And usually we think we can see envy in others, and we don't see envy there in ourselves. And we have to remember this thing very clearly, that we all are here because we were envious of Krishna. We thought that, why just Krishna? We also deserve something. So that complete surrender of the soul was not there. And we had a choice of making that decision and saying, no, I don't want to serve Krishna. So we are here. And you can say it's a punishment, and it's fine, because we saw in the earlier in the class today that we do give punishments to people, right? We talked about different kinds of punishments, and one of the ways of one of the reasons why we get punishment is to deter people from repeating that thing again and again, right? So punishment puts a check. So similarly here also we are put in this material world to go through whatever we go through, so that we get purified and we are ready to accept Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. And if somebody says, I don't want to follow that, well, then you know what? You don't have any choices. We are parts and parcel of Krishna, but there's a deal there, right? We are supposed to love him, and then he takes care of us, a lot more care of us. And it is such an interesting thing to keep in mind that we should allow Krishna to hold us. We don't allow Krishna to hold us. We want to take things in our own hands. We want to do our own thing. And we do it, and then we fail, and then we are miserable. And we do it over and over again. Punah punah charvita charvananam is what Prahlad Maharaj says. We do it over and over again. And that is insanity. To do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result is insanity. The definition of insanity. One of the definitions like that. Right? So Krishna is one of those who will not let go of you if you allow him to hold you. We might try to run away, but he won't let you go. You might say that, oh, today I won't chant. And then there's a knock on your door, and your devotee friend comes in and says, let's chant together. So it'll happen like that to you. So we have to remember that if we surrender to Krishna, and that surrender has got to be sweet surrender. And the fact that we don't surrender to Krishna is because of envy. So when the envy completely goes out of us, from inside us, that's when the 100% surrender happens to Krishna. And once we do that, then Krishna, surrender means hold me. I'm not able to hold on my own, hold me, right? So once we surrender the ladder, he won't let you go, because now you have surrendered, right? And so it's a very interesting thing that we hear in the Ramayana. One of the stories from the Ramayana is about how when Ramchandra ji was exiled to spend 14 years in the forest. And so he went there with his wife and his brother Lakshman, wife Sita. And they were all there a few little distance away from Ayodhya on their way further down south of India. And then by the time Bharat comes back from his grandmother's place, right? And when he comes back and hears all that has happened, he's very, very upset. And he comes and he tells Ramchandra ji to come back. And Ramchandra says, no, he was Maryada Purushottam. He gave the word to his father. How can he get back from there? So he refuses to go, and Bharat Maharaj refuses to become the king. So he says that I won't sit on the throne. So then what happens? Does anybody remember the story?
He takes the Padaraksha.
Yes.
He does what?
He takes his slippers and puts them on the
Slippers and
throne.
then
He
puts
takes the
on the
padukas
throne.
and keeps them, right? Right? So poor Ramchandra ji, whatever little he had, Bharat took that also, his padukas. So now you can imagine now that Ramchandra ji is walking barefoot. How do you feel when I say that?
Painful.
You felt painful? What are the feelings?
Because he's walking barefoot and
Yeah. No, I'm asking others. What other feelings are there? Anybody else felt it?
It hurts, Mataji.
But
It hurt you? Okay.
I think
Yeah.
sacrifice.
You thought about the fact that he's sacrificing? Yeah.
Yeah, basically for the, the way he kept promise for the father. He's
Yeah,
also
that's
now
right.
keeping and taking care of the brother's wishes. So
Right.
putting others in front.
In front, right? So
Yeah.
you see that, right? You see that thing, right? Now, this is what these expressions that you are giving. These expressions that you're giving are the feelings that a devotee will have. And so let's go a little bit into this story, right? So now he's walking barefoot in the jungles, and in the jungles there'll be twigs, there'll be small stones and all that, right? And so all these, he's walking on all of them. And then we know that in the night when he used to go to sleep, there was one person who never slept. Who was that?
Lakshman.
Lakshman, right? So Lakshman in the night used to come and sit next to his brother and then massage his feet. And while he was massaging his feet, he sees that under his feet, he sees that there are twigs, like dry grass has entered the skin, small pebbles, small pieces of stones are also there. There's blood coming out of that. And Lakshman feels very bad. So he tries to take them off, and Ramchandra says, no, don't touch my feet. So then he's feeling very bad. And so next day he talks to Sita Maya and says, Mother, he doesn't allow me, but you are the wife. You please take those things out from his feet. So then Sita Maya goes, and Sita Maya tries to take those things out of his feet. The pieces of stone and the pieces of straw and thorns and, all those things are there, wants to wipe off the blood. And Ramchandra tells her not to. So then she says, why, dear husband, why are you asking me not to remove that? My heart is bleeding from seeing the blood coming out of the wounds and the bruises that you have in your feet. And he said that these pieces of straw and these pieces of stones have taken shelter of my feet. And anybody who takes shelter of my feet, I will never let them go. Now, does anybody remember a verse?
Mataji, not the verse, but I remember Lord Krishna also told his mother that I don't want to wear any shoes, when she told him that you wear the shoes when you go with the cows. And he says, then you have to make so many shoes for the cows also, then only I will wear them.
Yes, yeah, something similar. Yeah, a verse I was asking. Any verse?
Mataji, we did it with you. Shraddha-devi Dasi.
Yeah, I was looking for that. Thank you very much. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Do you remember?
Shraddha-devi Dasi. Twasmiti cha yachati.
Abhayam.
Abhyam. Sarvada.
Okay.
It's just
very good. Very good. No. You remember that. So where will you find this if you were to look for it now that you don't remember it?
In your documentation,
nityasankirtan.com. Exactly. And if you go to the prayer sections on nityasankirtan.com, you will see that, right? And let me see if I can bring that up for you here. nityasankirtan.com. Come on up. It's thinking. Just give me a second here. It's coming up here. Let me start sharing the screen. For those of you who don't know about nityasankirtan.com, here's a chance for you to look at. There, share the screen again, and we are sharing nityasankirtan.com. Now, where do I go on nityasankirtan.com? Get it?
Prayers.
Prayers, that's a good one. And then look at the beautiful picture. Okay. And then we will go to surrender to Lord, surrender to Krishna. Okay. So let's come up over here and let's bring this verse. And let me download it. All right, here. Are you able to read it or is it too small? Tell me. Someone?
We can read it.
You can read it? Okay. Sakrideva prapanno yas tavasmiti cha yachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami tatvratam mama. So what does he say? It is my vow that if one only once seriously surrenders unto me, only once seriously surrenders unto me, saying, my dear Lord, from this day I am yours, and prays to me for courage, I shall immediately award courage to that person, and he will always remain safe from that point onwards. So that is the promise that Lord Ramchandra has given. So imagine those who have fallen at his feet, the pieces of grass and the stones, etc. They have taken shelter of his feet. So he said, don't let them go. Right? So that is the magnanimity of the Lord, that, he won't let you go. So that's a very nice
sloka, Mataji.
Sorry.
What is the number of the sloka?
It's actually in Chaitanya. It comes up in Chaitanya Charita Madhya Leela, 22.34.
22.34.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, so that is his promise that he won't let go of you. Now, another thing I wanted you to notice over here. And again, going back to the verse, the sentence I have been speaking for, I think, many times now in today's session, and that is Vasudeva Sarvam Iti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. So Vasudeva is everything. It's very difficult to find that Mahatma. And I had asked you the question that who is a Mahatma, right? Somebody who excels in his areas are known as Maha, right? Of course, the real Mahatma is one who considers that Lord Krishna is everything. So Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Tudurlabha. A person can be a jnani. A person can be a jnani, and a person can know everything about Krishna. And a bhakta. A bhakta, for bhakti, does not require jnana at all. Bhakti is causeless. You don't have to read all the Vedas, understand all the Vedas, memorize all the Vedas, right? To be able to perform devotional service. It comes from the heart, and bhakti comes from bhakti. The goddess of bhakti will give you bhakti, right? And or the mercy of a devotee of the Lord, a mercy of another bhakta will bring bhakti unto you. So now look at the way the two will behave, a jnani and a bhakta, right? Okay, so Krishna has got 6 opulences. Okay, can you tell me what the 6 opulences are? We did it just now.
Full strength, wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge.
Okay. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for rattling those off so fast, and thank you so much for starting with strength, right? So Krishna is the strongest, right? So what is a few pieces of stones in his feet? What's the big deal if a little blood comes out of his feet? He's a Kshatriya, right? Right? This is applying logic, right? Krishna is the strongest. Krishna has got bleeding. Strong people do not cry when it bleeds. They do not feel hurt when it bleeds. Therefore, Krishna does not feel hurt. There is no pain for Krishna. Logically, you're flowing through this. This is how a jnani thinks. What does a bhakta think? All of you started crying. And he started hurting you, right? Suddenly you realize that you had feet. right? And that they could hurt, and how bad it was when a thorn went into your feet, 10 years ago or whatever, when you were young, like that. So there's a difference in the way a bhakta feels for Krishna and how a jnani feels for Krishna. And when you pursue that route of jnana, and through your logic, you're able to deduce all those kind of things, right? So the soft feelings for Krishna are going to go away. Because Krishna is everything. I can do everything to Krishna. Nothing will happen to him, right? The other day, Varshana Mataji sent me a narrative, or she had actually posted it, I think, on a WhatsApp group of a tailor, right, who was coming to stitch the DT clothes. And every time he was, ordered to stitch the DT clothes, he would come and measure the DTs, right? And of course, he was not from the Vaishnava, religion or lineage. And so others in the temple were protesting to Prabhupada and say, like, he's a non-Vaishnava or a Malecha. Why do you allow him to come to the altar and measure them again and again, And Prabhupada allowed him. And why Prabhupada said, and so they asked the tailor that, why do you come and measure them? You already took the measure once. He said, oh no, they become fat and they become thin, right? So he was not seeing them as a statue. He was seeing them as a deity. He was seeing them as a real person. That is bhakti. That is bhakti, which was in the heart of a Malecha, right? So, so when for you, we can think that, Krishna is everything. And even beyond, even knowing that Krishna, Krishna opened his mouth and showed Yashoda Maiya once everything, right? A whole Brahmand is in his mouth, right? And then what does she do? I don't know, he's some yogi, he's just, playing tricks on me. He's just my little Kana. She thinks like that, that relationship. So depending on the kind of mellow that you share, right? Rasa that you share. So it's a das rasa. It's a das rasa that, when the master is hurt, your heart starts bleeding, right? Like from our perspective, of course, Yashoda Maiya, if Krishna is hurt, that's why she's saying, wear the chappals, wear the chappals, wear the chappals. When you go to the forest, it's Vatsalya Ras that is coming, right? But there is some sort of a rasa there, and it's come. All these are all various rasas of bhakti, right? There. So, and that kind of rasa will come. Why would you want to be somebody's das? Until and unless there is surrender, until and unless you really think that Krishna is everything, and then there should be no envy. And the envy goes away. So now the question comes to our mind is that how will envy go away? If and then envious thoughts do come into our mind, right? So how can we get rid of envy?
By completely surrendering.
Yeah. So how will that surrender come?
When the love for
Giving away.
Krishna arises in the heart, then the envy will go away.
When what happens?
When the love for Krishna arises in the heart, then the envy will go away.
Yeah. And how will the love arise?
Surrendering the materialistic desires.
The heart, very good. It's a very good thing. These materialistic desires are the ones that cause us to have envy. It's a very important thing to keep in mind, that non-transcendental desires are the cause of our envy. For example, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives a very nice example. He says that suppose there is a entrance exam, right, for engineering, say, and you are studying, friends are studying, others are studying, everybody's studying, and there are only these many seats, and there are so many students who are vying for that seat. And so somebody else gets the seat and we don't get it. Then the envy comes, right? So one of the, and it was a material desire, trying to get into engineering colleges, majorly a material desire, usually, majority of the times. And so we start feeling that envy inside us. And the reason is that there was something that was limited and everybody was trying to get that. And it was like, no, he took it, so now my share is going to get reduced or become zero because he got it and she got it. And what if all the seats are gone? Then I won't have anything. Okay? And what we were pursuing? We were pursuing that seat. We were pursuing that material desire, right? That goal. However, If you now go and repose your love and faith and affection into something which is infinite, where is the problem? You want to enter the engineering college of Krishna? There are seats for everybody. We are the one who don't want to go there. He's ready to catch hold of us and put us in the class like that, right? So envy arises due to our material desires. And how will our material desires go away? The material desires will go away. There are so many verses from our scripture. There's one which is my favorite. So I'm just going to bring it up. And this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so let me share that screen here with you. And this is from the 4th canto, 30th chapter. And here. Yatredyante katha mristas Trishnaya prasamo yataha nirveram yatra bhuteshu no dvego yatra kaschana. And what did it say? That whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, but they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vaikuntha means without anxiety, and material world means full of anxiety. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Sada Samudvena Dhyam Asadgriha. The living entities who have accepted this material world as a residence are full of anxiety. A place immediately becomes Vaikuntha whenever the holy topics of the personality of Godhead are discussed by pure devotees. This is a process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, chanting and hearing about the Supreme Lord Vishnu. As the Supreme Lord himself confirms, Naham Tishtanti Vaikunte, Yogi Nam Hridayeshu Va, Tatra Tishtami Narada, Yatra Gayanti Madbhakta. Beautiful words. And what it means? My dear Narada, actually, I do not reside in my abode Vaikuntha, nor do I reside within the hearts of the yogis, but I reside in that place where my pure devotees chant my holy name and discuss my form, pastimes, and qualities. Because of the presence of the Lord in the form of transcendental vibration, the Vaikuntha atmosphere is evoked. This atmosphere is without fear and anxiety. One living entity does not fear another. By hearing the holy names and glories of the Lord, a person executes pious activities. Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna, Punya Shramana Kirtana. Bhagavatam 1:2-17. Thus, his material hankerings immediately stop. This Sankirtan movement, started by the Society for Krishna Consciousness, is meant for creating Vaikuntha, the transcendental world that is without anxiety, even in this material world. The method is the propagation of the Shravanam Kirtanam process throughout the world. In the material world, everyone is envious of his fellow man. Animalistic envy exists in human society. As long as there is no performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the chanting of the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The Prachetas therefore decided to remain always in the society of devotees, and they considered that to be the highest benediction possible in the human life, right? So we have to be in a place where the transcendental topics of the Lord are being discussed by the pure devotees of the Lord. And then by hearing that, Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, everything which is dirty in the heart is going to disappear, which includes envy also. There's lust, there is anger, right? And there's a very interesting point that I wanted to bring up, and this is from our Brahma Samhita. I was reminded of these words when I was reading this chapter. And let me bring this up, and all of us can sing it together here. And am I sharing the screen? Not yet, right? Okay, Brahma Samhita 5.55. No way that you can forget 5.55. Okay, all of us together. Yam krodha kama sahaja vatsalya moha guru sevya bhave Right? So here, what they're talking about is that a person can be thinking about Krishna, right? And they could think and meditate upon Krishna in various ways, right? Yan kama krodha. So kama krodha, kama is like, well, you desire something, amorous passion, gopis, right? But krodha, even in krodh, or sahaja pranaya, like in friendly love, right? So bhiti, out of fear, vatsalya, out of parental affection, moha, delusion, right? Guru Gaurava, out of reverence, sevya, like a das, they want to do some service to him. So people can think about God in so many ways. And the main thing to notice in this verse is that something very negative, like krodha, is also listed over there, that people can think about Krishna in krodh, and still they will get benefited. Krishna will still benefit them because they were chanting the names, even if they did it in that way. Hence, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, to such a Lord, primeval Lord, I adore. Right? So you notice here that there were bad things that were mentioned, at least one of them. However, envy was not mentioned in that list. So you can utilize other emotions that you have. You can, love, you can use love and do something for Krishna, right? You can use your anger, you can utilize anger, it's not recommended, but you can utilize your anger for Krishna. How do you think it was done? Give me an example of somebody who utilized anger in the seva of Krishna. Very famous devotee. He has a tail.
Hanumanji.
Hanumanji. And what did he do?
He brought the whole hill, a mountain, when he could not understand what is the. No, he burnt the Lanka.
Yes, Hanuman ki pooch mein lagan na pai aag, Lanka sigri jal gayi, gaye nishachar bhaag. Right? So what happened? That and this is such a fantastic thing. See how God operates through his devotees. Right? So Hanuman is a monkey, and he was a strong one. Somebody put a monkey's tail on fire, he's going to get angry, right? And so he became angry, and then he burned down the whole Lanka. But who had put his tail on fire? The Lankans, right? Under the order of their master, Ravana, right? So Ravana caused the burning of his own city via Hanuman. But Hanuman could, that anger, utilize that anger in the service of the Lord. So anger can be utilized, but not envy. So we have to be very, very careful of this envy. And we saw how it can, how we can prevent from being envious, but stay in the association of devotees. And I also said that envy is a very subtle thing. So a devotee, again, I said, a devotee behaves in a different way. A devotee, like how Arjuna became, started representing the traits of a pure devotee towards the end, when he said that I will do whatever you want me to do, complete surrender to Krishna. So we also try to do complete surrender to Krishna, but we have to remember and be very careful of something which we try to do in our lives, is when we say, I want to become a great ... I want to become a great dancer. I want to become a great politician. I want to become a great husband, right? There is nobody who's great. None of us can become great. There is only one great. Eko bahunam, yo vidadati kama. There is only one, and that is Krishna. Vasudeva sarvam iti. And as long as that is not there, as long as we have a desire to be the greatest, how can you become the greatest dancer? Krishna is the greatest dancer. How can you become like Krishna? You cannot, right? So the devotee's mood is very different. He will just beg and say that, Krishna, please allow me to dance for you, right? To please you, let me dance nicely. That's as far as how a devotee will go. He won't even say that I want to become the best devotee. Like that, right? So envy can come in very subtle ways and make you forget the injunctions of Lord Krishna. And if you do that, then we are ruined in our endeavors for perfection, is what today's verse says. Okay, so I'll stop now and open up for Some questions or reflections that you have?
Mataji, you said you will summarize that Hindi audio that was posted in our chat group. So can you please?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So it was, thank you, Mataji, for reminding me about that. So it was a video clip that my husband shared with me. And so it is about a person who's emphasizing the importance of reading books. And he was lamenting the fact that these days we don't read books, right? And instead of doing that, what we want is ready-made, right? For example, sliced bread is ready-made bread, right? Frozen samosas, ready-made samosas. We don't have time. Prabhupada says, chronic disease of mankind, no time. So we don't have the time to, take the time to do what it takes to do something. And instead we try to get ready-made stuff. And he was saying that there are people, the pseudo gurus are actually encouraging others not to read. Why? Because they are misinterpreting the Vedas to suit the scriptures to suit their own needs. And so that's why they will say that don't read, listen to me. So we have to be very careful. And instead of that, we should, sit down, read the books. And if you have to, if you want to become a doctor, you have to read books. If you want to become an engineer, you have to read books. If you want to become a teacher, you have to read books. If you want to become a lawyer, you have to read even more books, right? So if you want to be a devotee, you have to read books, right? So I was just, pointing this thing out that it's a sad state and we should all encourage distributing books. And yeah.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for being on top of that. I had forgotten that.
Very good.
Anything else? Any other thoughts, questions, suggestions, ideas, promises?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, envy is so subtle that we don't even come to know that we are envious. That's
Yes.
very sad.
That's a
Maya.
Maya. Yes, Maya. Right.
I have one more question, Mataji. So since we're talking about surrender today, I just want to understand, could you please give me one example, symptoms of a person who is surrendered, like on a day-to-day life? Yes.
Day-to-day life. Exactly. Yeah. So very good question. And so surrendered, well, you remember in the previous verse, there was a word called Vigata Jwara. So when Krishna was giving instructions and his injunctions to Arjuna, where he was, he's talking about, don't do this, don't be envious, don't be, greedy, all that things, right? And then he knows that, once I'm telling him all that, then he will say that, okay, then I don't have to fight. Immediately in that same verse, he says, Vigata Jwara, without lethargy, fight, right? So we have to understand that surrender doesn't mean not doing any activities. For us in a day-to-day life, the highest, achievement or the level of surrender that we can achieve is when we do not focus on the results of our activities. Karmaneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, right? So you have, and that is where our problems are. That is where, and there also envy can arise for ourselves, for others, and including Krishna as well. So in our day-to-day life, the more we are surrendered to Krishna by way of not focusing on the result, I'm going to give it my best. I'm going to do whatever it requires for me to do, whatever the action is. But Krishna, Jivasadeva Sarvamiti, the results are in your hand. And so that's why last week when we read Markine Dharma, right? So where Prabhupada is saying that, you have brought me here to teach these people. I do not know how to teach these people, so you can become my voice. So you see, stark comparison between, I want to become the best preacher in this world. I have translated the Srimad Bhagavatam. I have spent my whole life in that pursuit. From, instead of being in that level of consciousness, he's at extreme end. He's saying, I do not have the qualification to teach these people. You become my voice and you teach. So that is surrender. And he also said, you make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. Right? That is surrender, to understand. And the biggest surrender and the most difficult surrender is when things are not going good for us.
Yeah.
So you expected $5,000 bonus, you got only 4,000. You can say, okay, it was Krishna's will, right? But then if you get laid off, that's a difficult thing. To understand that Krishna has good for us, even in that activity, is surrender to Krishna. And we can keep on asking that question and pray to Krishna and say, like, okay, this happened to me. Krishna, please guide me. What is the lesson I'm supposed to learn from this? Let me learn it quickly because you want me to learn it.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking that fantastic question. Yeah.
Mataji, I have two questions.
Yes, Puna Mataji.
Yeah.
Buy one, get one.
Yeah, you can say that. So one is, you just said reading books, right, is a way of, for a bhakt is important, right? And we were just talking about for bhakti, the knowledge is not important. So I'm just trying to connect and trying to clarify, how should I think about it?
Very good. Very good question. The mood with which we are approaching a book, right?
Yeah.
For example, chemistry book.
Yeah.
Right? In my days, there used to be chemistry by P.L. Soni. I don't know whether he's still on this planet. But anyway, so P.L. Soni wrote a chemistry book. And so we would sit down and say, okay, 24th chapter, I'm going to master all this and I'm going to conquer this book. And, so I'll get all that knowledge. There's one, the Gyanis do that. Gyanis read the same scriptures as we do, the Bhaktas do, right? So Gyanis will read analysis. And like I said earlier, right? Gyani will say that, reading the Ramayana, so what's the big deal if there are some stones which are there, because now he's logically deducing. But the Bhakta will read the same scripture. Why? Because he wants to know about Krishna. Why does he want to know about Krishna? Because he loves Krishna. So the approach in which they read it, is a very different approach. So extremes of Bhakta, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to read the Srimad Bhagavatam. He used to cry so much on that Srimad Bhagavatam, it was spoiled. Right? And he could never read it. He used to ask somebody else to read it to him. Like that. That's because he was in the incarnation of a devotee, right? So he was showing how devotees behave and how, will do that. For example, Parikshit Maharaj, I think, was reading about when Sukadeva Goswami is narrating him the pastimes of Krishna. And so some demon is attacking Krishna. And some demon is attacking Krishna. And so Krishna is saying, so Parikshit Maharaj is now getting scared, oh, he might be killed, he might be killed, he might be killed. But the Gyani will say, no, see, Parikshit Maharaj is hearing this story after Krishna has left the planet. And he was 125 years old when he left this planet. And this demon coming after Krishna is when Krishna is 3 months old. So obviously we know that Krishna, killed the demon. He's not going to die. So you see the mood in which they read is very, very different. The mood in which a bhakta is, anxious. Something's going to happen to my Krishna. Look at Yashoda Maya always, after that Trinavata came and then she was there, to take some gobar, put it on him, where is the charmer, let me touch the charmer, let go of all the evil spirits. She's doing all that. Bhakti. Bhakta. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. And the second question I have is, you just mentioned envy is the only sense which
bad thing which cannot be utilized for Krishna.
Yeah, but anger, everything else. So why envy can't be surrendered and cannot be utilized?
So think about it. What is envy? Inability to tolerate the eminence of somebody else. Right? So if we take the case of Hanuman knew and accepted. He was a surrendered soul to Ramchandra. He was totally accepting the eminence of Krishna. And so when he got angry, when his tail was burned, he used it to burn down Lanka, Ravana's city.
Yeah.
So he could utilize that. But then if you are envious itself, when you have got envy for Krishna or envy for anybody, how will you use that envy? Like if I am envious of you, right? How will I use that to do anything for good for anybody? Envy is somebody got a Tesla and now you want to damage that Tesla.
Destroy it. Okay.
Destroy it, right?
Okay.
So because
Okay.
of the sheer definition of envy, you cannot use envy in the seva of anybody else, right?
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Right? Because the two won't go together. If I'm envy of a
Yeah.
Krishna, I'm also saying I'm devoted to you. And
Yeah.
which I said that, so surrender in the material world, I said, happens like that. A military leader might surrender to another military leader when he knows he's going to be killed right now. Right? And so let's surrender. But in the heart, is the surrender there in the heart? No. But in the case of Bhakta, the surrender is there in the heart.
Mataji, can I ask a question?
Hey, Arani. Yes, Mataji.
So in the link, where you have all the various, one proceeds from the other, anger, delusion, etc. Where does hatred fit in? Where does hatred spring from?
Where does hatred spring from? Hatred is, I would just say that it is again coming from, it could be from various reasons. One of this is envy, right? Somebody wanted something and that got converted into hate. It could also be hate because of what somebody does and you hate them for what they are doing, right? And that's what Christ said, that do not hate the sinner, hate the sin, right? So we could hate somebody because of what they are doing to us or they're doing to others that you love.
But that really requires a lot of evolution, right? To hate the sin and not the sinner, because when you repeatedly have acts that are committed by either one person or a whole group of people, the same or similar acts, it is very difficult to stop yourself from hating that group of people or that person and just focus on the act. It really requires a higher level of evolution and sort of refinement of or spiritual evolution, if you want to call it that, because it can evolve into like hatred towards that group of people because you identify the act with that group of people.
Right. And we have to understand whether our identification is right. What did they have in their mind when they are saying, right? And let me bring up a couple of verses which will be of a solace to you from the Bhagavad-gita, right? So here I'm sharing the screen and I'm taking you to the 6th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, where Arjuna is telling Krishna, Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna pramathi balvadranam tasyaham nigraham manye vayo eva sadishparam. Right? So when a group of people did something and is repeatedly doing something and you're saying, Christ said that hate the sin and not the sinner, and I'm not able to do that, right? He's saying exactly the same thing. What is hatred? It's a thought that comes to the mind, right? And he's saying the mind is restless, it is turbulent, it's obstinate and very strong. Oh Krishna, and to subdue it, I think is more difficult than controlling the wind, right? He says that. And then let's go to the next verse. What does he say? And then Krishna says, Asamshayam mahabaho mana durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu konteya vairagena cha grihyate. So he's saying, Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. That's it. So abhyas. Abhyas, and you said, how will I reach that higher level of consciousness? Abhyas. See, recently we had the Olympics. And so there was the pole vaulters and, people from India usually win the gold medal on that. And so in the beginning, it's like, I can't jump 2 feet. Forget about 6 feet. Forget about 16 feet. And then you practice. One day it is 2 feet. Another day it is 2 feet, 1 inch, 2 feet, 2 inches, 2 feet, 3 inches, 3 feet, 3.5, 4, 5. That is how the consciousness will raise. And how will your consciousness be raised? In order to sustain, that rising up to the top and jumping higher and being able to jump higher and higher, you need to be supported. And how will you be supported? By coming to the association of devotees. always. And that's why that verse that I brought in, that the Prachitas was saying, that, when you are in the association of devotees who are discussing Krishna Katha, then other thoughts that are there in our mind, which are not so pure and conducive for devotional service, they will disappear. They will go away. They won't like it, right? Everybody is, appreciating Krishna. Nobody is encouraging my bad thought, right? Like that. So the thoughts will go away like unwelcome guests. But the more you nurture, when a wrong thought comes to, and there you have to be very careful of the association that you keep and who do you go to. And I always give this example of a inner devotee in our congregation. She rented a new house and a new apartment, and there was something in the apartment watering system that happened, and there was a very stinking smell in her home, that in her kitchen of all the places. So where to cook, how to serve the devotees and things like that. And so she went to her office and told her people there, and so she asked the apartment for some refund or whatever it was. I'm forgetting now, or they should put her up in a hotel, whatever, right? And so the apartment people, told her that, yeah, stay there, stick to your guns and fight it till, they give it up. These people, and they are cheating you, they're doing this and that. Stay there, fight it out till they give it to you. Then she came to the devotees at the temple. Same story she said. And immediately the first thing the devotee said was, but if you're there in the kitchen, how will you have prasadam? Right, first thing. So get out of that place. It's stinky. In any case, it's bad for your consciousness to stay in a place which is stinking, right? And so get out of your place. Move out in the hotel. Your apartment rental complex is saying that they will allow you to stay for 30 days outside in a hotel. Forget it. Sometime in life you get bad deals. Forget about it and move on. And she stayed there. She moved out. And guess what ISB does, right? When somebody's in a situation like that, she was loaded with prasadam and nothing, better to do. So where are you going? So if you go to a person who's going to fan your flames even higher and pour, add fuel to the fire, that's not good association. People should be putting water. When you are angry, they should not make you more angry. They should be one who should calm you down. If you think that bunch of people are repeatedly doing the same thing and you go to somebody else and who fires you more, then you go and fight again, right? The idea is to, have people who first calm you down and bring you to a level where you're ready to listen. And when you're ready to listen, then the Shastra will sink into you, where you will say, and then you'll start to rationalize and you'll think that, okay, so what made those people behave badly to me? And then you deep into, and why are they not behaving badly to somebody else, right? Or something like that, right? Then the law of karma kicks in, right? And if that makes you feel bad that, I'm being punished for my karma and things like that, also remember that one of the ways of progressing in devotional service and getting what is known as spiritual blood or chid rakta is to be ignored or insulted, right? So it is amazing. Now, some people insult you and you're feeling bad in the heart and you're not reacting to it. It's like, oh, wow, this was a nice opportunity I got to increase my hemoglobin, my spiritual hemoglobin. Come on, bring it on, say bad things to me. It helps me. So you see, when you take the refuge of Shastras and take refuge of Krishna, the same situation is there, right? So everybody, there are the events repeat in people's lives, right? Boss got angry. Well, which boss doesn't get angry and shout, right? Everybody would have recounted that in one time or the other. The boss was angry. But we have a choice on how we react to that. And when we say, and depending on your reaction, subsequent things that happen in our lives are dependent on our reaction to that. And that is why when people say that man makes their destiny, this is how destiny is made in the first place, right? So if people are being mad at us, bad at us, insult, rude, close that chapter, move on, forget about it, forgive, come on. You will get 1 ounce of spiritual blood instantaneously.
So what if it's not directed particularly, what if it is directed particularly at you, or you see a pattern, like for instance, like the way George Floyd was treated, generally the way African Americans are treated here, and then you see, that same attitude towards other people, non-white people, and that kind of attitude. So it may be towards you, but it's also towards a general group of people, and like George Floyd. And I mean, to me, I see more and more of it, and I'm really horrified. It's not like as if we didn't know about it, but when you're up and close and, you see it every day, it's horrifying, and it builds a sort of, to me, I know we're on Facebook, so I don't want to say too much, but kind of like an antipathy, towards, and so how do you deal with that? It's
very nice question. And that's what Prabhupada used to say, that you have the United Nations and all the nations are fighting still. United Nations, united, and they fight. And 5 have got power of veto and 1 doesn't have, and then they don't want to add the 6th or 5th or whatever the numbers are. And he said that, following these kinds of things and having these communities and going out for protesting and all that is there. But, you have to address it at the root cause, right? If you're saying that people are discriminating based on the skin, the color of the skin, this means that they are still on the material platform, right? And you remove the skin, everybody is the same, right? So you have to, the real remedy, and Kunjara Eva Shochavat, the real remedy, Kunjara Eva Shochavat, is that, how an elephant takes a bath. So elephant goes to the river, it takes a nice bath, comes out, and then it takes some dust and sprinkles it all over its body because the flies come otherwise, right? But what's the purpose of that kind of a thing, right? So similarly here also, right? If you go there, you put a loudspeaker, you protest about it, right? Or you all go out and create a rally, or you go and retaliate, right? What good is going to come out of that? You have Kunjareva Shochpat, it made some cleaning, but then again, there'll be some consequences of all that. Instead of that, hit it at the root cause. And that is why it's so important for us to spread Krishna consciousness, to spread this nice Vedic literature. And once you and try to convince them, right? Again, karmanneva adhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Your job is to tell them. Your job is to just tell them it is up to Krishna, whether they will become devotees or not, whether they will take the Bhagavad-gita or not, right? It's a totally different thing. And you never know. A person might be behaving very badly, and then, but when you present the Bhagavad-gita, they are a totally different person. And we could be thinking like, oh, so give benefit of doubt to others also. Sometimes not everybody is a devotee, not everybody is at a high level of consciousness. And also they could be going through a bad day and they behave like this, like that, right? Again, I'm on Facebook. I'll just say, remember the gas station episode with you, right? You were able to give a Bhagavad Gita, person paid you money, right? So you never know. So do your job of, distributing books, give out books. And I have to tell you this very interesting story today, that now Prabhupada Marathon has come and we have book distribution. I have book distribution targets, but not book distribution targets. I have Lakshmi targets, and they go mind-boggling figures that we try to generate. And so I'm very, very tense the last 2 months of the year. And I was, asking Vaisheshika Prabhu to give me some blessings to be able to distribute books, and the team also can, contribute like that. And so then there was a talk today about there are some cookies in the temple. Some Hansapriya Mataji and her team had made some cookies, and they said, take a box of Bhagavad Gita and you get a box, like equal number for every book in the box. You get 2 cookies and some nice flyers and things like that, so you can go and distribute. So I said, well, there's some grocery stop near my home, and I can drop off a box there. So I took those. And then there's another devotee, Archana Mataji, who sometimes comes to the calls. She also lives near my home. So I said, I'll carry a box for her also, because she wanted to distribute. So I got more cookies and 1 more box. And then I couldn't get in touch with her. So there were 2 boxes. And I said, okay, anyway, I'll go to San Mateo and I'll give it off in some stores. I had gone there last year also. Then I said, okay, my husband was driving, and I said, okay, let us just wait. And let me go inside and ask whether they'll accept the Bhagavad Gita. So I'm there all masked and all that, right? Long hair from last year. And so I go there and I see that person and I said, we have forgot that it's giving season and I've got some cookies and some Bhagavad Gita, so we'll keep. And he says, you came last year. So I said, yeah. And he says, bring them on. So I was very, very happy. And then I come outside and I realize, oh, but the Bhagavad Gitas are in a box and I've got a whole bunch of bags and then the cookies are someplace else. I need to make all of them and put a nice package for all of the 24 Bhagavad Gitas. So my husband and I sit in the car and we're opening everything and we're putting this. So then I realized that, on my way from the temple, I had given some cookies to somebody else to distribute. So I was now short of cookies. So there were more Bhagavad Gitas than cookies. So anyway, I went to the inside and I gave him all the boxes. He kept it in the counter and he said, I will distribute all of them. So then I said, well, there are some which don't have cookies in it, but I'll just distribute it to the people who are coming to your, and I'll talk to them. So I was able to give it to an American lady there. And then one more lady, she took it. She was very, very happy to take it. And then there was one which didn't have any cookies or anything. So I said, let me go outside before people see that there are option of having it with a cookie. Let me give this book to somebody outside. So there was a lady coming, and I told her this. And she said, this is such a big coincidence that you're giving me this Bhagavad Gita. And she takes out her cell phone and she shows me her mom had sent her some video which had 5 top teachings of Krishna. And she said, this is a coincidence. And I said, this is not a coincidence. It is Krishna's arrangement that you got. I happened to be there. And so I distributed. So then she said, oh, wow, you know what? This is fantastic. And I want to also, I want to tell my friends to come here to pick up the book. I said, no, you pick up the book and you go give it to your friend. And she said, oh, wow. And then she said, how can we help you? So I said, all these endeavors require Lakshmi, right? So if you can donate something to us, you donate, or you can help us, with distributing these books. And I think the biggest help you have given us is by accepting this book from us. That's the biggest help that you did, because, now her life is going to change. I mean, for the better, or even for the best, right? She's already at the good stage there. And then all this is happening. So then then I'm just turning to go out. And then the shopkeeper calls me again. And then he said, this is the owner. Somebody had walked in. As I was walking out, somebody walked in. The shopkeeper calls me again. He says, this is the owner of the shop. So then I turned to the owner, and then the shopkeeper said, oh, she's given all these for free. And she gave last year also for free, like that. And so the owner said, oh, wow. Then he said, how many books do you have? I'm going to put that in Sulekha. I'm going to put that in Sulekha. Sulekha is a place where they advertise. And so how many do you have? I said, oh, I have 1 box. It was Archana Mataji's box. I said, I have 1 box and equal number of cookies. So then he said, okay. So then he said, how many more can you get me? I said, how many do you want? He said, I'll pay for them. I want 4 more boxes. So I said, okay, I can get them to you only tomorrow. So, I had gone there not with the intention of making money or anything like that. Today, I just said that I'll go and put the Bhagavad Gitas. And if anything has to come, it'll come on its own, like that. So Krishna arranges, and he was so happy. He said, this is the occasion of Bhagavad Gita. This is the occasion of Diwali. So he wanted, he wanted to give gifts to all his customers who come there. And I'm just thinking that, we should just make a regular thing there, regularly put Bhagavad Gitas and other books and regularly have prasadam. So people are having prasadam there, like that. And that's all. Whether they will become devotees, whether they will get away from apartheid or not, those are all Krishna's wishes. And whenever things happen, and this is where people are not able to understand karma, karma comes and hits us back. And, again, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is kind of like, a big speaker on rebirth and things like that, right? So they say that, and I had also told other time also, I think it was answer to your question or somebody else's, that, there is when you look at things in the time continuum, then you will understand it. If you just look at within this lifespan, it's very difficult to understand why bad things happen to good people, why people are beaten up, why not. But if you see before and after, then everything fits into place, right? Everything fits into place.
But in that case, we should know the before and after. Then
surrender to Krishna. Surrender to Krishna, right? Wanting to know everything, how much will you know? And will you really want to know?
No, but in order to understand, if that's what it takes to understand, then
so you understand that generically. You understand that generically, that sufferings in a person's life come from what they have done in the past.
But it can be very frustrating for those who have almost continuous suffering to know
Yeah.
that that's karma, to know that they have that much. I mean, like a shipload of karma.
There is hope. There is hope. There is hope. And that is where the words comes from Brahma Samhita. Right? Yasta Indragopa Mathavendra Hosa Karma. That right from the Indragopa, the little insect, all the way up to Indra, who is the king of the demigods, everybody is affected by karma. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam. That all your loads of karma, all the loads of karma can be burnt. Burnt means burnt. There is no trace left, right? Like if you take a measuring, if you take a stainless steel measuring cup, right? And if you beat it with a hammer, then it'll be out of shape, might not look like a measuring cup. But then somebody, talented can come and fix it, and it'll again look like a measuring cup. But if you burn it to ashes, you cannot make a cup out of it. Similarly with karma also, they are burned to ashes, means completely gone, destroyed. Thank you, Sutapa, for attending.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.
Yes, Mataji, I remember the story of Narad Muni who went to the Vaikuntha, going to Vaikuntha and met the cobbler and met the rishi. And the cobbler, you see, when he comes back and he tells the rishi that you still have a few more years to go, then only you will meet Krishna. You'll go to Vaikuntha. And he says, what is this? A few more janmas. Then he says, what is this? I have been doing so much. And he was frustrated. And when he comes to the cobbler and tells the cobbler that the Lord was, what was Lord doing? He says he was, putting the elephant through the hole of the needle. And
Yeah.
he says, yeah, this is so nice. So God can do anything. In this one small seed, there can be a tree. And how long will I take to go to? He said, as many leaves this tree has. And he says, he starts dancing and feels happy that finally I will go to Vaikuntha. I mean, he was not worried. So, you see, one has to have faith.
One has to have that.
Krishna.
And again, thinking about the continuum and the effect of the continuum, right? We start in the beginning with punishment, right? If you don't follow the punishments of the authority, then you are, injunctions of the authority, then you are punished, right? So now, so you do a crime and you punish. You do a crime and you are punished. You do a crime and you're punished, right? And the idea is that by taking repeated punishments, then the tendency will go away, right? The tendency to do that will go away. So we have to remember that for the sufferings also, like you said, there are mountain load of karma that we have done, right? In a millions of lives. So all those are accumulated. And when you take a particular body, like this body, in this body, I'm destined, right, to suffer. This body has been made so that I will suffer and enjoy both a small portion of the karma that has been accumulated. So that is known as prarabdha karma, for which you have already received a body and you will, square it away. It's very important to square away the karma, because if the karma, as long as the karma is not squared away, it will keep on coming back here, right? So there is a prarabdha karma and then there is a aprarabdha karma. A means opposite, right? So prarabdha karma is a section of the karma for which you got the body, and aprarabdha karma is that section, that set of karmas for which you haven't yet received a body, right? So which means that I have lifetimes more to suffer if I've been a bad person, right? Many, many more lifetimes I have to suffer. Now, it doesn't stop there. And why I say that is because you have the tendency, we still have the tendency to sin. With that means I will accumulate even more bad karma. So that cycle continues. That's why we have millions of births. And so it's only bhakti that reduces and removes that tendency, because too much of punishment also makes you sometimes very hard and they will do it again and again. But the tendency, that root cause has to be removed as to why a person does that. And that only a devotee can do. A devotee like Srila Prabhupada, who translated these books. Like that. So, does it help, Aruni Mataji?
Yeah, can you just repeat that part about too much punishment? So when you have this, when this
like kids do, like sometimes kids do, parents beat them too much, right?
right. So when
And
this
the kid
karma
is
repeats, and then you respond in a certain way, and then the karma keeps repeating based on your accumulated karma, your prarabdha karma.
right.
And then you get, you keep receiving the same treatment or encountering the same circumstances or whatever it is. So you get hardened inside. You get more and more hard, and then it doesn't necessarily make you a better person. You just become, your reserves of kindness or softness or whatever it is get worn out, and you get very hard, or you get depleted. So how
Yes.
do you handle that? Then what purpose does it serve? Where do you go from there?
A devotee, pure devotee will come into your life. And it's Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy will come. And yes, people become hard-hearted, and bhakti is about being soft-hearted. Bhakti is the softening of the heart. Evam vrata swapriya nama kirtya jatanurago drita chitta uchay. Drita chitta means, drita chitta is softened heart. The heart becomes softened. We are very, very hard. And the material world makes the heart even more hard. The heart more hard.
I mean, it is possible to advance spiritually and then go backwards, right?
Yes.
So what if that happens, and then you go backwards, you encounter all these situations, and you go downhill, you decline, and this doesn't just harden you. A lot of the times it may weaken you. So when you don't have energy, I mean, even for bhakti, you need energy. For spiritual practices, you need energy. And when you don't have that energy, how do you get back on that path again?
Yeah, wait for the mercy of prasadam, which requires no energy to consume, right? Just don't do anything. Just by like I said last time. Did I say that last time? That if you are in the garden of roses, without doing any efforts, you will be affected by you will get the good smell. You don't have to do anything. So just hang on, even when the life is treating you very badly, even if you think you are at the worst of the situation. Like Guru Ma once said that, right? In one of her lectures, she said that once she was feeling very low, that it was Radha Ashtami and she didn't go to the temple. And then, she was lying inside her room. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon and didn't go to temple at all, a long time ago. And then, there's a knock at her door. She opens the door and there is her friend from the temple with a plate of prasadam. When she saw that gesture, loving gesture, right? That softens the heart. And then you can also see, we have not been given intelligence for no reason, right? So also what happens is that the etchings in the heart, the etchings which are there in the heart will remain. And I'm here talking about the good etchings which are there in your heart, right? You are reading the Bhagavatam, you come to the temple, you are doing, I know, chopping service, you do that. Sukumal Radhe Mataji tells me, right? Book distribution, you have been trying to do that. I have seen firsthand, right? So you're doing all those things. So those are going to have an impression in your mind. So the next time anything like that, a bad situation comes, which is again where the mind is tempting you to do this way or that way, you can rely on the Shastras and you can know that, oh, wow, there will be consequences, and I have two options, and I have the free will to choose whichever I want to do, no matter what the mind suggests me to do. The soul is the highest, because you read that in the Bhagavad-gita too, like that. So, so there is hope. Just don't give the association of devotees. And if at all it happens, don't give the association of books or transcendental sound vibration. Listen to lectures. If you don't get along with anybody who's surrounding you, listen to, like, there's so many lectures, ISKCON preachers give. Just listen to them, the sound vibration. It'll have its effect.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, guaranteed. It's a guarantee. It'll happen. All right, so 7:39 in the night. Do you know where you kids are?
No, because you're trying to make up for not giving us classes on the rest of the week.
All right. Thank you.
Good one, Sukumal Mataji.
That is good, Sukamala Mataji. You're right. You're right.
Thank you so much, Shraddha Mataji. It was a very
Thank you,
enlightening
Mataji,
class.
for giving your time, and it was really enlivening, no doubt.
Yeah, thank you, Shraddha Mataji.
There you go. It
Thank
is
you
all I
so
spoke
much.
from what others have spoken. There was not a word, single word that I added. And that's the sense of preaching. You don't have to add anything on your own.
And I'm thankful to those who asked those questions and you answered them, and it became more enlightening.
Yes.
Thank you, Mataji.
Alrighty, then if there are no more questions, then we will meet again tomorrow at 6:30. Tomorrow is Ekadashi.
Yeah.
So we'll get a
Thanks
chance
for
to recite.
reminding me. Yeah, thanks for reminding us. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get a chance. Somebody remind Sutapa also. Or maybe.
Oh, I think
already
Kathy
posted.
sent it out.
Yeah,
already.
it's already posted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we are. Okay. Enjoy. Have a fantastic day. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Premanande Hari Hari.
Hari
Hari
Bol.
Bol.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Danvat
Krishna.
Take care, everybody.